Alright, so let's start with our first topic, which is AWS IAM roles and user. The first thing which we are going to do first of all is to sign up for an AWS account. So here I'm just going to open a new tab and I'm just going to type aws.com. And as soon as you open this page, then on the right hand side, you will find an option for a complete sign up, which is present over here. So just click on it. And here you will find a sign in as well as a create new AWS account. So since you are just trying to register this account for the first time, then just click on create a new AWS account. And here it will ask for your email address, your account name. So here you just need to enter your email address because AWS needs your email account, and that email account needs to be fresh account. It has not been previously used. Since I have already signed up for this AWS, so I'm not going to perform the sign up process because I have my email ID already registered. And here you can enter some email or your account name which you want to use for login purpose. So that's the very simple sign up process which AWS has. And as soon as you complete the sign up process, then I'm just going to show you the AWS console, how it looks like after you perform the login. Alright, so now I'm assuming that you have already signed up for AWS account, and to perform the sign in, so here it looks like. So here it is a sign in page, and I'm just gonna use the root user option because if you're doing it for the first time for AWS, then by default it is gonna give you a root user which has all the privileges for your AWS account. So just select the option root user, enter your email address and then click next. Here I have already saved my password into my browser, that's why it is already filled in. But in case if you are doing it for the first time, then just key in your password and then click on sign in. And as soon as you sign in, so this dashboard might look a little bit different. I'm just gonna zoom in a bit over here. Since I have been using this particular AWS console for a long time, that's why you are seeing quite a lot of options which is popping up over here in the recently visited like a box. But in your case, it might be empty. But if you are able to see this console, then you easily can say that, hey, you have successfully registered for your AWS account. And this is gonna be your root account. Alright, so let's get back to our slide. So here this was our user. On the left hand side, he has performed the sign up and he is able to see the AWS console page. So the key things which you need to look over here is this is a root user. So how will you know that it is a root user? So here on the right hand side, you will see an account ID. And here you will find this particular account ID as well as this particular options like account, organizations, billing, dashboard, security credentials. Although if you are not a root user, you will also see similar options. But since you are a root user, then you will not see here an option for a switch role. So that's the key things which you need to look for once you sign up with your root user account. And one more thing which I would like to show you is the billing dashboard. So here, since I have been using this account for a long time, that's why you can see some cost which is associated into my billing cycle because I have been using some of the resources. But here you will find all the options and you will be able to see all of these details because you are the root user for this AWS account. So this is the key thing which you need to keep in mind. And as a good practice in AWS, it is recommended that we should not use the root user account quite a lot for creating or managing our resources. We should create IAM users. I'm just going to tell more about those IAM user later, but these are some just good practices from AWS. So yeah, just let's go back to our console, and this is the sign up. After sign up, we are seeing this console, and this is our first step which I would like to show you before we go deep into the IAM roles and user. So here, this is the user. We have performed the sign up and we are able to see the AWS console as a root account. As I have already told you, like what a root user can do, a root account can manage the IAM permissions, like which user needs to access which resources. So it's pretty much like a controlling the permissions of your whole AWS account. So these are the things, or these are the powers which is associated with our root account. It can also control the billing. So if you are using AWS account for a company, then you might need to associate some credit card for your billing account so that a billing can happen and you can use your AWS services continuously. So it can control the billing as well as it can control all the resources and the permission associated with those resources as well. So it's pretty much this root account has access to everything inside your AWS account. All right, now talking about the more specific about the IAM user. So now we have created a root account, and that root account is already visible over here, which is rahul.wag, which is my personal root account. So now what we are going to do, we are just going to create an IAM user. So here the name of the IAM user is going to be a test user, and this user have a very limited permission. So when we are going to create this particular test user, during that time, that user will not have permission to view any of those resources. So our root user is gonna first create a test user, and that user we are gonna call it IAM test user. So we just call every user here as IAM user. So the name of the user is test user. Secondly, we are just gonna create some policies. Those policies are governing the access to the resources. So in AWS, we have so many resources, and to control those resources, we need to define the IAM policies. So here we are just going to create an IAM policy, and with the help of that policy, we are just going to allow to access the S3 bucket. So S3 bucket is the like a storage where we put our files, our configuration, or our like a media file. So anything which is like a big in size, which you can store it onto your S3 bucket. So we are just going to create a policy to allow that particular user to access the S3 bucket. So this is the very simple use case which we are gonna cover, and which gonna explain like how the IAM users are created and how the IAM policies like permissions are assigned to those particular users. Alright, so what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna head over to console, and here in the search box, you need to type IAM, click on this particular option IAM, and here click on users on the left hand side. And here I have already created one user, so just ignore it. In your case, if you are doing it for the first time, then this whole page will be empty. There will not be any pre-existing users. So here click on this create user. Here you need to enter the name of the user. In our case, we are just gonna name it as a test user. Provide user access to AWS Management Console optional. We are just gonna enable it later. I'm just gonna explain it later to you. Okay, so here set permissions. So add user to a group. We are just gonna select this option. Just click next. And here it is just asking us to review the details. So here we have just assigned the username. We have not assigned any group to that particular user. I'm just gonna explain the group thing later into this chapter. So just keep in mind, we are just keeping our flow very simple. We are just creating a user, that's it. And then just click on create user. And here you can see we got the user, which is test user, which has just created. Click on this particular user. And here you can see the details. So first thing which you need to be careful over here is the ARN. So this is a resource ID, or the ARN, which we call it into AWS. So this is the resource ID which is always unique for any resource which you are going to create inside a AWS. So for this user, this is going to be the ARN. And if you create any EC2 instance or S3 bucket or any other resource in AWS, then it will always grant you an ARN. So this ARN belongs to this particular user. So that's a key information which you need to keep in mind. Now you might be wondering that we have created this test user, but I'm still logged in as a rahul.wag, which you can see over here. This is the account ID and this is the name, which is rahul.wag. So how can I log in with our test user account? So that is also possible. What you need to do, once you create this user, then you go to the security credential. Then you need to enable the console access. So that will allow you to grant the AWS console access. I mean this access. Once we have logged in, so this particular UI AWS console, which we call it, you will be able to have the AWS console for that particular user. So first we need to enable that console option for that particular user. So I'm just gonna go to IAM. Again, click on users, click on test users, go to security credential, go to enable console, click on enable. And once you enable the AWS console, then you need to set the username, which we have already set up, but also you need to set up the password. So here it will ask for auto-generated password or custom. So it's up to you. For this is just I'm doing for testing purpose, so I'm just going to use the auto-generated password. And yeah, here is one more option. User must create a new password after the next sign in. So if you're creating this user, then if you enable this checkbox, then user need to set his password when he or she logs in for the first time. So this is just doing it for the testing purpose. So I'm just gonna uncheck. I'm just gonna apply. And here you can see, so here you will find the URL which you need to use for performing the login, and this is a very specific URL for that particular test user. This is the name of the user and this is the password. So just copy these details somewhere and secure it, and then we are just going to use these details to perform the login on using my test user. Alright, so what I'm just going to do, I'm just going to open a private or incognito mode window over here. And here I'm just going to enter the URL first of all. I'm just going to zoom in a bit. And this URL is, I can show you again. So this is the URL which I am using, which I have got once I have created the user and I have enabled the AWS console. So this is the URL which I'm just going to use. I'm going to hit enter once again. So it's gonna pre-fill the account ID over here. You don't need to do it anything. Here you need to enter the name. So I'm just gonna enter the name test user, and I'm just gonna copy the password from my notepad, which we have already copied once we created this user. So I'm just gonna put in that password and click on sign in. And as you can see, I'm just going to close this one. So here, this is the first time I'm doing the signing using the test user account. So that's why we are just getting these options. Click on next, done. I'm just going to ignore all these, accept all cookies. I'm just going to zoom in a bit so that you can see. So here you can see this is the fresh console, and this is the first time this test user is going to perform the login. And here you can see the option for a switch role also. So which means this is an IAM user and it is not a root user. And also I would like to show you a few things over here. Let's start with the S3. S3 is the bucket. Let's try to see if that user has a permission to do anything over here. So here, let's go and click on buckets. And here you can see you don't have a permission to list buckets. So which means that as soon as you create a test user or IAM user in AWS, so by default, AWS doesn't provide any access to that particular user. So you need to create a permission policy so that that user can access any specific resource. So here I have just taken an example of an S3 bucket, and here you can see it cannot view any of the existing S3 bucket, although I have not created any bucket. But here you can see that error message that you don't have a permission to list the buckets. And instead, if I go to my root user account, so I'm just going to minimize this. I'm just going to close this one. I'm just going to go to AWS, and here you can see this is the root user account, rahul.wag. And if I go to S3 and if I go to buckets over here, then you will see that I'm not getting any error over here because I am a root user and I have all the permissions. So that's the key difference I just wanted to highlight to you over here. So the next thing which we will do, we are just going to create a policy for that particular user so that user can access the S3 resources. And this is a very common example which I am taking, and the same principle we can use, the same policy we can use and customize it to provide any access to any other resource. For example, EC2, ECR, the container repository, or what we can say, the secret manager. So everything you can cover or you can govern or provide an access using the IAM policies. Okay, let's take a look onto the slide for a moment. So here we have created a root account, we have created a test user also, but we have not created yet the IAM, which is the permission. So let's take a look onto this permission and what I have mentioned inside this permission policy document. So here, this is the version, which is like an ideal syntax from AWS, which you need to follow. Then statement block, and inside that statement block, you need to provide the SID. This SID is a unique. You can keep any name of your choice, and it has to be a little bit suitable onto that particular policy document, what it is doing. But here, this was just a demo purpose, so I have just written a statement 1. But instead of statement 1, you can put like allow S3 access, which is more suitable for this use case. Effect, which means allow, so it is going to allow access. Instead, effect can also have like a deny, so which means you are just gonna deny the permission or deny the access. But here we just wanted to test the allow, that's why I have kept it as allow. Action S3 with a wildcard star, which means I'm just gonna allow all the S3 access. So it can view the bucket, it can create the bucket, it can delete the bucket, and perform any kind of operation which relates to S3 bucket. So user can perform any operation on that particular S3 resource. And finally, the resource, which is star. So anyone who is having this permission can perform this action. So that's the policy or the permission which we need to grant to that particular user. Alright, so now the question comes like how to create this policy. So again, go back to our root user. So this is the root user console, and go to IAM, just type IAM over here, go to policies. Here, click on create policy. So here, these are the default policies which has been created by AWS, but I'm just not going to use the AWS default policy, but instead I'm just going to create a new policy. And here I'm just gonna click on JSON, because I feel JSON is more powerful rather than the UI, because here you can see everything into the JSON format. And once you see the code, then you feel more control over the permission. So here action, what I'm just gonna do is like S3 star. And here I'm just gonna put star, and statement, as I told you, we can put something meaningful over here. So allow S3 access. And once you create this, and if there are no errors, then you can just click next. And here you can provide the policy detail. So just for the testing purpose, I'm just going to use test user allow S3 access. So this is the policy name which I'm just going to assign. And after that, here you can see it has already taken the S3. Because we are allowing the all S3 access. So here you can see full access. So whatever we have mentioned inside our JSON document is now getting interpreted. And here you can see the conversion, like it is saying full access to all resources. Then, and the request condition is none, because we are not specifying any specific condition on which condition we are allowing or denying. We are just allowing everything. And here I'm just gonna click on create policy. And here you can see this is the policy which we have created. In case if you didn't see this policy, then just use this search box over here. And here you can verify this policy which has been created. Now, next thing what we need to do, we need to assign this policy to that particular user. And this policy assignment can only be done with the root user. Okay, for that what we need to do, again go to AWS, go to IAM over here, click on IAM. And go to users, click on test user, because we need to assign that policy to the test user, and go to add permissions over here. So here you will find an option to like create inline policy or add permission. So here I'm just gonna click on add permission, because we have already created a permission. Now we need to attach it. So here I'm just gonna click on add permission, add user to group, attach policy directly. So I'm just going to select attach policy directly, and here you will see the list of policies which exist. So I'm just gonna use the search like a test user allow S3 access. Here you can see the policy. So I'm just gonna select this one, click on next, and then click on add permissions. So now here you can see that for this particular test user, and here is the green message, which means the policy has been added. So this particular test user, we have allowed the access to the S3 bucket. And this policy has been attached to the test user, which means that particular test user should be able to access the S3 buckets. So I'm just going to open the other incognito mode where I have logged in as a test user. So I'm just going to head over to my browser, and I'm just going to open the test user console. Just give me a second. And here you can see, I'm just gonna zoom in a bit over here so that you can see. So this was the page when I have opened before I have assigned the permission to the test user, and this was the error message which we were getting. So now I need to refresh this page, and this error message should be gone. So I'm just gonna click and refresh this page. And here you can see the error message has gone, and now the user will be able to view the buckets, although there are no buckets which I have created, but at least from the permission side, you can see that error message is no longer visible over here. So this is how you're just gonna create a user and assign a permission to that particular user. Although I have taken an example for a S3, but the same concept can be taken to apply or create a permission policy for any AWS resources. Alright, so let's take a look back onto our slide, and now you can relate how the IAM users are created, how the permissions are associated with those users. The next concept which I'm just going to talk about is the groups. So now you can also create a group, and inside that group you can create a multiple users, and that is also quite a useful feature. So here again I'm using the root account, and that root account is going to create a group which is a demo group. So I'm just taking a very like hypothetical example over here, but in a real time scenario, like you might have a multiple users into your organization, and you can divide those users in terms of groups. So one group can have like a developer group, one group can have a tester group, and one group can have like a product specialist or account manager. So these are few examples where you can create a group and you can assign users inside that particular group. Previously we have just created a test user without any group, but here I'm just gonna do one thing. I'm just gonna create a demo group, and inside that demo group I'm just gonna create a user which is a test user, and then we are just gonna assign a policy. Previously we have assigned a policy to test user, but this time we are just gonna assign a policy to the group, so that any user which is present inside that group has a permission which we have created. So instead of creating those permission specifically to users, we can just create on a group level, and by default the users which are present, so here the test user is present inside the demo group. So this particular test user is gonna inherit those permission from the demo group. So here again we are just going to create this policy, and then we are just going to test whether that particular user is able to access those policy S3 bucket or not. So this is the example for a group which we are going to take it. Let's head over to our IAM console, and the first thing which I'm just going to do, I'm just going to delete this permission which I have created for this particular test user. So this is a test user and this is the permission, so I'm just going to remove it, remove policy. That's done. I'm just gonna go on the left hand side, and here I'm just gonna click on user groups. Here I'm just gonna click on create group. Here I'm just gonna type the name, so let's say demo group, and then wait a second, here we need to create a user, create a group. Oh, here it is. So here this is the option create group, so I'm just gonna click on create group. And here you can see the group is empty because there are no users inside that particular group, and the permissions are not defined. So we have not created any permissions. We have just created a group. So here click on this demo group, and here click on add users. And here we already have a test user. So I'm just going to select the test user and then just click on add user. And so let's click on this users group link once again, and here you can see the demo group now has a one user, but still the permissions we have not defined yet. So we need to define the permission on a group level. So again click on this particular group, and here click on permissions and click on add permission, and here click on attach policies, because we have already created the S3 policy. But before we attach a policy to the group, let's go to incognito mode window where we have the test user. Let me open that one. Just give me a second. Here, since we have removed that policy from test user and we have not yet assigned that policy to the group, so which means this user doesn't have the S3 view permission. So let's refresh it. And here you can see the error is coming over here again. So what we need to do now, again go here in the demo group, and the demo group has the user test user. So again go here, attach policy, click on this test user allow S3 bucket. Although I'm just reusing this policy, so it doesn't matter like what name you keep it on a policy, you can reuse those policies. So here I'm just gonna select this one and click on add permission. Click on add permission, and here you can see now this particular demo group has a permission to access the S3. So which means any user present inside this particular group, which is a demo group, should have a permission to access the S3 bucket, and which we can verify it once again. So again, I'm just going to open another window. Just give me a second. And here it is. So I'm just going to refresh this one because the test user now inheriting the policy from a group, which is a demo group. So I'm just going to refresh this one. And here you can see that error message is gone, and now the test user is able to access the S3 bucket and all perform any action which needs to be done on S3. So this is how you can control the access on a group level also. So you need to create a group. Inside the group, create a attach a user, and then after attaching a user, then you can also attach the policies which will be applicable on all the users inside that particular group. So let's go back to the slide and see once again over here. So here you can see, so this was a root user which created a demo group. Inside the demo group, we have created a test user, and then for that particular group, we have created this particular policy. And once we have assigned that policy, then this particular test user is able to access the S3 bucket. So that's the like a very basic concept of IAM user, permission and user group, which is quite useful for managing the access and the permission within the AWS cloud environment.